Well, hello, I'm Josh, and I'm back once again with another great film to tell you about. And as promised, I have two Christmas films I'm going to be talking to you about this week. But to kick us off, I thought I'd start with a bit of an unusual one. For instance, did you know that Humphrey Bogart was in a Christmas movie? One that was even helmed by his Casablanca director, Michael Curtiz. The year after, Curtiz made another very iconic Christmas film, being White Christmas. But this film is quite different from that one, and to be honest, it's one of the most surprising and unusual Christmas films I think I've ever seen come out of classic Hollywood. And that film I'm talking about is Michael Curtiz's 1955 black comedy classic, We're No Angels. We're No Angels takes place in 1895 and follows three recently escaped convicts from Devil's Island. On Christmas Eve, the three arrive in a French colonial town called Cayenne, where they happen upon a store managed by a man named Felix Ducatel along with his wife and daughter. The convicts offer to help fix things around the house while secretly plotting to steal their clothes and supplies in hopes of escaping on the ship that night. But as they get to know the family and fix them Christmas dinner, the three learn about the family's poor financial situation and start to have second thoughts about robbing them.
After all, it might spoil their Christmas.
And when the cruel store owner, Felix's own cousin Andre, arrives with plans to take the store away from Felix, on Christmas Day no less, the convicts decide to help the family stop cousin Andre and save their business the only way they know how. So you can see what I mean about this being a pretty unusual Christmas film. And even though Curtiz is technically doing his second holiday film in a row, the setting for this is about as far from snowy Vermont as you can get. But despite the thematic and location differences, both of these films were shot by cinematographer Loyal Griggs in VistaVision, which was Paramount's answer to the new widescreen formats like CinemaScope and Cinerama that were being developed to combat the rising popularity of television. So this was still a pretty big movie, shot in beautiful color and filled with tons of details within the sets to enjoy. And if you think the name of this sounds familiar, there was a remake made in the late 80s with Robert De Niro and Sean Penn as the convicts, and it even had Neil Jordan directing a script written by David Mamet, though the film's title is really where the similarities end here, as the setting and much of the plot is completely different from this film. But getting back to this film, We're No Angels, the 1955 version, it is absolutely hilarious. It's based on a French play, which was later adapted into an English one, so it has a very witty dialogue-based humor to it that was really common back in those days with all these screwball comedies that you'd see in classic Hollywood. And this also explains why most of the story takes place in just the one location, though we do get to see it through many perspectives. In fact, the first really good look of the house we get is up from the roof, where the convicts are supposed to be making repairs, but end up listening in on all of the family's problems instead. The three convicts are played by Humphrey Bogart, Peter Ustinov, and Aldo Ray. And though that might sound like it's a pretty odd combination, I mean Humphrey Bogart was at least 20 years older than the other two, I have to say that when they're put together, they really make for a solid comedy trio.
It might be better if she saw you first. It's not that we're so very bad to look at, but it takes a little time to get used to us.
What's so fun about them is just how light and friendly they are, despite being murderers. It reminds me a bit of some of the Coen brothers films like Raising Arizona or Oh Brother Where Art Thou, where much of the humor comes from the fact that the criminals are incredibly polite and nonchalant when talking about their crimes. And even though you initially think that they are there just to terrorize the family, and there are a number of films that take that route, as a matter of fact there's one I can think of right now that even stars Humphrey Bogart, that being William Wyler's The Desperate Hours. But this film takes a much more optimistic approach where the criminals use each of their specific skills to help the family, and with the arrival of cousin Andre, played by the great Basil Rathbone, along with his nephew Paul, each of their talents certainly comes to good use. And on that note, let's get into this massive cast. I mean, Humphrey Bogart to start is just incredible in this. He never really did much comedy before, or any Christmas films for that matter, even though he was actually born on Christmas Day, but he nails it here. I really wish he had gotten a chance to do more comedies, as he clearly has this fantastic dry sense of humor, as we can see in many of his other films, but is really given the spotlight here. And this, I believe, was his 8th and final film with director Michael Curtiz, though Casablanca is of course by far the two's most iconic work together. And Peter Ustinov is also great in this film as the safecracker turned murderer. But what makes him so funny is how charming and polite he is. This was a pretty early role for Ustinov, and based on his appearance, you wouldn't think he would fit in with the bunch, much less be a murderer himself. But he has such an oddly delicate way of talking about it, you just can't help but laugh. Like Bogart, his humor is very dry and nonchalant, which works so much better than having them try to one-up each other or make the other laugh, as you can often get with some of these buddy comedies. Aldo Ray is probably the least well-known of the three, but still holds his own incredibly well. Despite being the strong, mean-looking tough guy on the outside, with constant references being made by the other two of his murderous past, he is very sincere, and I believe he actually ends up being the first one of the three who actually decides to help the family. He and his pet snake Adolf, that is, who he brings along in his colorful cage. And there are so many other great actors in this film as well. I mean, you have Joan Bennett in here, who was a huge classic Hollywood actress back in the day, as well as Leo G. Carroll, who was a very popular character actor, appearing in, among many other things, 6 films with Alfred Hitchcock. But of course, the most famous of the supporting cast is the great Basil Rathbone. Though best known today for his portrayal of Sherlock Holmes, Rathbone was quite experienced at playing the villain as well. In fact, much like Humphrey Bogart, this was not his first time working with director Michael Curtiz either, as he had also famously played Sir Guy in The Adventures of Robin Hood, and appearing even earlier in Curtiz's film Captain Blood. But he does a fantastic job here as the stuck-up rich man who only wants to serve his own selfish ambitions. And though he may technically be doing so legally, you soon see that he and his nephew are the real villains of the story, while the convicts end up being the heroes of this family's Christmas.
Convicts? What are you doing here on Christmas Eve?
We're the 3 wise men.
So if you'd like to watch We're No Angels, you can rent or buy it from all the usual sites online, and it's actually currently streaming for free with ads on Pluto TV if you want to do that. Otherwise, physically, you can pick it up from Paramount on DVD or Blu-ray like I have here, and it's a pretty decent edition. You know, there are no bonus features or anything to it, so it's pretty bare bones in that regard, but it was also only about $10, so it's not gonna really set you back that much either. But those are your options. So now for my comment question, I'm wondering, what is your favorite offbeat Christmas film? I mean, we all love the classics, White Christmas, It's a Wonderful Life, those Rankin Bass stop-motion films. But I'm wondering, what is your favorite film that kind of takes a different spin on the holidays? Go ahead and put your favorites in the comment section down below and start discussing. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this video, and subscribe if you want to see some more of these. And be sure to stay tuned because I will be putting out one more Christmas recommendation on Christmas Day itself, which is coming very soon, so be sure to keep an eye out for that. Remember to keep watching movies, and I will see you then.
Sentimental moments that you shared with me, they will last forever and ever and ever in my memory. Sentimental moments, how I treasure every one, and I live them over and over and over when my day is done.